Welcome back, warrior. Okay, we're reading Genesis chapter 45. And let's read the preface. Joseph makes himself known to his brothers. They rejoice together. Pharaoh invites Jacob and his family to dwell in Egypt and eat the fat of the land. Okay, so let us get to 45 and get started. Okay, and we have how many verses in this chapter? 28, so that'll be nice. So we got a lot of chapters to cover. Okay, then Joseph could not, so you remember where we're at, right? Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him. And he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. So he was saying like, everybody leave, right? Because he's getting emotional. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. Aw. Right? Because he got so emotional. Because these are his brothers. Ugh. He's the one who loved them. You know, when people betray you, the love for them does not automatically stop, you know? You can't just end feeling love for the people that betrayed you, or for a person who betrays you. It's not that automatic. You're angry and you have so many emotions and questions, and you just can't stop the love. In fact, you wish you could, because then it would be easier to be betrayed by people you didn't love, right? And so for him, this was like crazy emotional time, right? And so, yeah, here you see Joseph revealing himself to his brothers. And he wept out loud, and the Egyptians and Pharaoh heard. Okay, and then Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. Right? Because they're like, who's this guy crying like crazy and now talking about Joseph? And Joseph said unto his brethren, come near me, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Right? And these brothers, nobody knew that that's what had happened, except Joseph knew. And, well, probably the other people who also knew from like him being in prison or, you know, whatever. Maybe he told his story to other people. But as far as those guys were concerned, no, they didn't tell anybody that they sold their brother to Egypt. They told everybody that he died, right? And so that's why they were like, who is this, right? And verse 5, now therefore be not grieved. So now their realization is like, oh, this is Joseph. He's got so much power. What the heck? And like, then they could be afraid very easily because of what they could do, like what Joseph could do to them, right? Now, therefore, be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years, in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all of the land of Egypt. Haste ye and go up to my father, and say unto him, I love that he's like, go to my dad, not your guys' dad. You know, when your siblings are like, hey, remember when my mom did this? And you're like, you mean our mom? You mean the mom of both of us? You know, like it's just kind of a funny statement, right? Haste ye and go up to my father, and say unto him, thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. Okay, but now the brothers are going to have to disclose to their father that Joseph is alive. Now, like how that's going to go down, I don't know. Because I don't even remember. Are they going to have to tell him, like, yo, we actually sold Joseph to Egypt and lied to you this whole time? What the heck? Right? Or, yeah, I don't even know how they would end up doing the lie. But now, obviously, the dad, Jacob / Israel, is going to experience maybe some of this betrayal that the brothers did to Joseph, right? Because the dad's going to find out through discovery or disclosure, which technically it's almost both, right? Because it's like Joseph is making them do it, right? And so it's kind of like a discovery because they weren't prepared to share this information. It was going to go down with them to their grave, right? But now, because Joseph is alive, now that lie either is going to somehow morph into more lies or is going to have to come out in truth, right? And I don't know if they cover that in the scriptures, so let's see. Let's keep going, right? And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen. Wait. Thus saith the son of Joseph, thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. Okay. So he's like, haste, go get dad, right? And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou, and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. And there will I nourish thee, for yet there are 5 years of famine, lest thou and thy household and all that thou hast come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. Now, he did not say, you're going to tell dad everything you did to me. So he kind of leaves that up to them, and we'll see what they say, right? Because I don't know. Okay, so when they had arrived in Egypt the first time, they looked around wondering if they would run across him. Did they ask about him? Right? Like when they first came, do you think that they asked about them? But imagine Joseph to actually be this powerful man whom they had been fearing. And Joseph invited them to come over and near, and they did. And I'm Joseph, your brother, right? Only Joseph would know about that secret, remember? Yeah. And the brother they had been saying was gone. They had not said that they had sold him, and was this first time. And this was Benjamin's first time hearing of this, right? And so it's like, wait, right? And so it's like Benjamin even was betrayed by his brothers in this moment is how he's probably feeling. Like, wait a minute, you sold my brother into Egypt? What the heck? Like, so, like, it's so wild, you know, this whole story. Imagine now what might be going through the brothers' minds. Joy, terror. Joseph was alive, but Joseph was also a powerful man who had good reason to bring vengeance upon his brothers, right? Who caused him to be torn away from his family and his life, and his, just the life that he knew, right? And they don't even know all of the torture that he'd been through. It was like much worse than he thought, you know, that they could have thought, right? But Joseph was good to them and quickly calmed their fears by declaring that it was not they who had sent him to Egypt, but God. Now, he's already gone through the whole, like, probably anyway, or maybe not even, the whole being mad at God thing, right? I think whenever we have like a really large trial in our lives, it's so easy for us to blame Heavenly Father for our predicament or for our situation, or because we know that he's the only one that could also get us out of it, and he didn't prevent it from happening. And so we think immediately, like, how could he, right? If he couldn't have caused it because other people have free agency, right? And so then there's that. But then it's like, but you could have like helped me prevent this, or you could have, you know, something, right? You know that because of how much we know about Heavenly Father, which is not that much anyway, but like most of the things we know are like, he's all knowing, he can do anything, and you know, and so, and it's like, and he's our dad, right? So it's like, what? You knew all these things are going to happen, or what? You couldn't prevent this, or what? You couldn't help me, right? And so like, those are just the things, right? That we would naturally expect from a father to help us. And so, but Joseph was just such a good just a good guy, right? But he knew that being in Egypt was God's plan for Joseph and God's way of preserving Jacob's family and even Egypt. And Joseph revealed that the famine was only 2 years in the land, but that there were 5 more coming, remember, because it was a total of 7. So if they were suffering this much at 2 years, imagine what was yet to come. So Joseph understood that God was preserving Abraham's family in unexpected ways. And that's why he immediately was like, you got to go get dad and bring him over here. So Joseph longed to see his father also, which was another reason why he needed to get him to come over here. But he also knew that he was really old, and so that it was going to be like a trek, right? So he didn't want him to get much older. So he's like, go, do not linger. So and notice that like kind of what I just said is like, notice that he did not tell the dad to go tell them that you sold me into Egypt and as a slave, and now I'm a powerful man and you are at my mercy. Rather, he said, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. This credit was God's. He saw how God's hand had guided, protected, and preserved Joseph and Jacob's family. God had weaved this tapestry. And, you know, hindsight, that people say hindsight's 20/20, right? And so he was experiencing that 20/20 right then. He was realizing that, and that had to be part of the emotion that he had been feeling, as he saw his brothers and everything. He was connecting everything, right? He was like, oh, wow, like this must be why this happened. And remember, we talked about how it was a dream that he received originally that made his brothers jealous of him and made them want to sell him in the first place to the Ishmaelites and then to the Egyptians, right? And so like, it was one of those things that's like, wait, only God provides dreams, right? And then everything that I've got, like how I've gotten here, was because of the dreams. And so then it was like, oh, wow. It's like that aha moment. It's like, it's the total cliche, like, there's 2 important moments in your life: the day you were born and the day you found out why, right? And it's kind of like that. But although I believe there's many more reasons than just one as to why you're born, because there's not just one. But for him, this was that moment right there. It was like crossing, and it was like, wow, like super eye-opening, which is probably why he was so emotional at the beginning when he first saw them. And then later, you know what I mean? Like, just like all of this coming up. So Joseph had a plan for his family. Famine was far from over, and they needed to move their entire family, flocks, and herds to the land of Goshen. And there they would be nourished for the 5 more years of famine. 5 more years. These brothers needed to have faith in Joseph's prophecy, enough faith to move their families and wealth to Egypt. Now, I don't know how many people there are over there already, but it did not seem small. So like, it's just awesome. This whole story is just like so awesome, right? And he fell upon, it's just like one of those, like, from trial to triumph, and from like super broke, poor, homeless, you know, slave, to second to Pharaoh, you know? And it's just one of those things, you know, it's just like it's like the Princess Diaries. It's like a normal person becomes like a princess, right? And it's just like, I just love these stories. They're just my favorite. This is the kind of story that we love. Anyway, so, and he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them. And after that, his brethren talked with him. And so that would just be awesome, right? Like, they probably had so many questions. and Joseph had so many questions, right? But Joseph was just so good. He wasn't like making them feel horrible about everything, right? Which, trust, when someone betrays you, you want to make that person feel super horrible, or people, right? Because you're just like, why? Like, anyway, that's just like the natural man is like, wants that. But obviously Joseph was above that. So, verse 16, and the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come, and it pleased Pharaoh well, and his servants. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, say unto thy brethren, this do ye, lade your beasts, and go, get you unto the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and ye shall eat of the fat of the land. Now, I love that Pharaoh loves Joseph so much that he loves his family automatically, right? Like, but also he probably didn't tell him, he probably didn't tell him of all the people in Joseph's family, right? Now thou art commanded to do this. Take your wagons out of the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. And also regard not your stuff, for the good of the land, all the land of Egypt is yours. So he's like, just leave your junk, okay? It's not going to be as good as Egyptian stuff, so you don't need to bring it, right? And just come, right? Also, and then he says, and the children of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of raiment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of raiment. Okay, but like now he's traveling back, right? So now he has all this extra stuff, so that's kind of fancy, right? And to his father he sent after this manner 10 donkeys laden with the good things of Egypt, and 10 donkeys laden with corn and bread and meat for his father by the way. So, because it's going to take a month to travel, remember? So, and they're going to need food, and they're going to need stuff throughout this month of travel. So it was nice that they were sending them with food. So he sent his brother away, and they departed, and he said unto them, see that ye fall not out by the way. And they went up out of Egypt and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not. Right? Because these guys, you just can't believe these things sometimes from these brothers, right? And it's like, it was like an unbelievable kind of a story, right? And he's like, what? I thought he was dead. What? Don't lie to me. It's like, stop messing, right? Like don't play around, right? Stop playing. And then verse 27. And so of course he fainted. He's like, what? Passed out. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. Right? Because what? Joseph's alive. And then he sees all the things from Egypt. Obviously, Egyptian chariots or wagons and clothing and everything are totally different than the Hebrew stuff, right? And so he's like, oh, wait, they're serious. And Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. Right? Oh, how cute, right? Okay, and then, so just another little recap. So Pharaoh then heard that Joseph's brothers were in Egypt, and Pharaoh graciously offered Joseph's family to come to Egypt, right? So Jacob's family was now invited by Joseph and by Pharaoh. So you had like two peeps just inviting, right? So it wasn't just Joseph giving all that stuff. Okay, so imagine the shock that Jacob must have experienced at home. He would have been worrying about the safety of his sons and what was happening to them in Egypt, plus Benjamin, right? And not knowing what's up with him. Then suddenly his sons arrive home with 20 donkeys, and food and gifts, and all of his sons were there. And best news yet was that Joseph was alive, and so of course he fainted. And not only that, but they no longer needed to worry about what the famine would do to their family or their flocks or their herds, because Joseph had prepared a way to save his family. Or rather, God, through Joseph, right, had prepared a way to preserve the house of Israel. Just like that, Jacob's greatest worries were taken from him. You know, and that is what let God prevail means, right? Because remember how worried Jacob was to let his sons go back into Egypt, right? And Jacob was like, I'm going to lose all my kids. I'm losing all my kids, right? And he's like, I have to send Benjamin, and I'm going to be starving to death, or if I don't. And then he's like, I guess if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved, right? He's just like, I guess I will just be childless if that's what God wants me to do. But it took him a while to get to that point, to be able to let Benjamin go, and because he was so worried about it. And he didn't let God prevail before, but then after he made that decision, that was him letting God prevail in his life. And because of that small action, right, everything had been prepared for him already. He just needed to get access to it. He needed to let God prevail in order to get access to that, to Joseph and to all those things. Imagine if he never came back. Like, how would Joseph even go find him, you know? And so, I mean, maybe because he's now Egyptian and has all these things, but still, right? Like, how it wouldn't have been easy to figure that out. And so the fact that he had to let God prevail was like key in the whole story of Jacob's greatest worries being taken from him, and greatest worries being, and greatest needs being met by God, right? So anyways, I love that story. And now we're on Genesis chapter 46. Okay, the read it, live it is so good. Okay, here we go. It is chapter 45, verse 5. It says, God did send me before you to preserve life. And so good. So Joseph saw the full arc of his story, right? Like, that was what we were talking about, how it was like everything was coming together. And it wasn't a tragedy. It was purpose. Even the sorrow led to something good. Trust his process. It had purpose. Even the sorrow led to something good. Sometimes our sorrow in our trials leads to something good. Even like if we allow it, right? If we allow it. And if we continue to trust in God. I feel like sometimes we don't allow our tragedy to become something good because we are stubborn about having gone through it or have to go through it. And so then we don't trust the process. We don't let God prevail. And then it turns out to not be what we wanted. And then it turns out worse, right? But the second we turn to Christ, we turn to God, then he can make something of that for us. He can consecrate all of our afflictions for our gain, is what we have learned in the Book of Mormon. And now in this story. So anyway, I guess in multiple stories of all the different scriptures. So anyway, I think that's awesome. Trust his process. Okay, until Genesis chapter 46, stay strong, warrior.